In my formative years, I was a basketballer, and my subconscious is full of these cliches that coaches used to throw around at practice when they were trying to motivate us. One that I heard all the time is that you're supposed to practice like you're going to play. But this week I've been thinking about a weird backwards version of that axiom, about the concept of playing like you practice. I formed my musical identity when I was in high school, making music in a very specific way. I was a guitar player, not a very good guitar player, and heavy-handed, I'd say. And when I decided that I wanted to sing along with that music, I sang at a volume that I could hear over those loud guitar sounds. Many hours of that approach in my bedroom formed the blueprint for what I thought of as performing music, and it's a blueprint that I executed whenever I was playing a gig or making a recording that I took seriously. But then a funny thing happened over time, and that is that my playing habits changed. The first major change I made is that I stopped playing things like this. I love that style of playing. It's the kind of thing that made me love playing guitar, but my parents wisely advised me that on my way to college, I should probably leave the electric guitar rig behind and instead pick up the acoustic guitar. I had high hopes about that transition and the effect that it was going to have on my life, specifically my love life, but it didn't actually have almost any of those effects. One effect it did have, though, is that it took the volume of my playing down pretty substantially to something more like, which honestly is still pretty loud, like if you're sharing a wall with somebody, but it's not nearly as loud as the electric rig. And that change was crucial. It allowed me to continue playing guitar a lot during years that I lived in dorms or apartments. But like I said, an acoustic guitar can still be pretty loud, especially if your main approach is to strum it like it's a punching bag. And because I wanted to be able to play in places and at times that kind of volume wasn't appropriate, especially late at night, I had to change my approach to playing guitar. I did small things like I tried to leave my pick somewhere else in the room and use my fingers instead. And those changes accomplished my goal of reducing volume, but they also affected the way that I played guitar, the relationship I had with the instrument. I took those volume-related changes to an extreme in 2016 when I decided that I was going to write a song every day for a year. And in the few months that I did successfully write a song every day, I found it crucial to be able to work on music in all of the little dead spots, little free moments during my day, including some moments when I was at work. I was busy at work, billing hours for the law firm, but there were still pockets of time, like at a lunch break or in these weird little 5 to 10 minute increments between conference calls that you've already prepared for. You could just go stand around at the water cooler and shoot the shit, or you could work on a song. And in many of those moments, I did in fact work on songs. I brought this guitar to the office, but no amplifier. I set it in the corner of my office right within reach, and if I had a moment when I didn't have anything to do, but also couldn't really transition to new meaningful work, I would pick this up and do just a little bit of work on the day's song. From a songwriter's perspective, that approach worked really well for me, and maybe that's a topic for another video, but it also really affected just the way that I made music as a guitar player and singer. Because I was still playing and singing in a small office, adjoined to other offices with walls that were even thinner than the walls that surrounded my dorm room. I needed basically to be able to play this instrument and then sing things at a volume that no one would notice, that would disrupt no one's day. So I began playing almost exclusively with my fingers without a pick. I stopped doing anything resembling the earnest strumming that had characterized most of my earlier playing, and I learned to sing at a volume that wasn't designed to project over the sound of a loud acoustic guitar or an electric guitar, but just was designed to be heard by an iPhone voice memos app over the sound of this quiet guitar. That quiet approach to playing caused me to start making music that felt totally different from the kind of music that I had been writing and playing before. I liked the new approach and the results of the new approach. I felt like I was writing and playing and singing better than I had ever done before. So I did more of it. It started to become my go-to approach for writing music casually. But the transition to silence continued, because in 2018, I became a parent. Suddenly, I found myself using this quiet approach almost exclusively because I had to. The days were full with parenting and work, and the evenings were really dedicated to family time, and it was only after everybody else went to sleep that I felt like I could take some time to pour into my music. So I played quietly. And that was in 2018. This has been my life for almost 6 years. That's a lot of repetition, certainly enough to reinforce a new habit and even style of playing. And yet, when I connect a microphone or stand in front of an audience, something different comes out. It's the old me and the loud style of playing that I developed when I was a teenager. Notwithstanding that I basically never do that anymore, it seems to still be this default setting that I shift into when I feel like it's time to really perform. I've recorded and released a lot of music in the last few years, and this has been the case in almost all of those songs. And in many of them, it's created a surprising tension because when I'm using the quiet approach during the writing stage, I play differently. I sing differently in ways that don't necessarily translate that well back to the loud performance approach. The vocals have been by far the most interesting to me because I knew that I was singing more softly and that had a different sound, but I didn't realize that it was having all these other effects on the way that I breathed, and as a result, how long of a phrase could I comfortably sing. And also, it gave me a new sort of relationship with pitch. Some notes that seem very comfortable when I'm singing really quietly seem almost too low, uncomfortably low when I'm singing at my full volume. And I feel like I have to put all this power behind it just to make the note sound in the way that I'm expecting. But that power is fundamentally different from the lightness of the quiet approach. It kind of bulldozes through a lot of the ideas in a way that sometimes sounds okay, but often just sounds off. And this was the case last week when I recorded and mixed and released a song called Sand. Waving like I was sand. I love that song. There's so much about it that I like, but the vocals were honestly brutal. I did a ton of different takes, and I had a really hard time singing it for reasons that I've already discussed. It felt unnatural for me to sing at the correct pitch. It's a struggle I didn't have as I worked on the song in the days leading up to the recording sessions. And it's probably because in that build-up period, I was singing the song differently. I mean, listen to this excerpt from a run-through that I did just a day or two before actually starting recording. Still smell the sunscreen on your skin. Still hear you daring to get in. There it is. It's the quiet voice, the quiet approach to performing music. I didn't notice that difference at the time. I just knew that something was bothering me about the recording. And then I sent the recording to my wife. And in general, she was very sweet about it, but she asked me a simple question. Why did you sing the song so hard? I literally began to laugh. I mean, it hit me. It was so obvious why I hadn't felt the right resonance with this new recording. I took a song written and revised by new me, and then I hired old me to perform the vocal because I've never done it any other way. This week, instead of recording a new song, I decided to focus on this conundrum and try something I had never tried before, which is to record vocals using the quiet approach. I've set up a little workstation over here with the Model 12. I brought a mic in and a little mic pre, and I'm just going to get as comfortable as possible and record these vocals. I honestly have no idea how this is going to turn out. But one thing I'm going to do is not record myself while I do it. I don't want to be thinking about that. And plus, you're not going to be able to see me in maximum mood lighting. So I'll get back to you when I finish the recording. Okay, friends, welcome to tomorrow. Let's talk about how the recording session went last night. I won't lie to you, it was long and kind of painful. Mostly because I am not that good at singing consistently in this quiet voice. It took a lot of vocal takes. In fact, I basically ended up having to do an artificial vocal comp by on one track only singing every other line and on the other track singing the opposite lines. The result is that I have a complete vocal, but it was a lot of work and it's not the way that I prefer to work. After a couple of hours, I was so tired and frustrated that I just saved my session and shut off the Model 12 and tried not to think about it anymore. So I'm here in the shed with the speakers on to actually listen to these new vocals in context, really for the first time. But if I did, what then? I'm underwhelmed. Okay, I used some of the built-in tools in the Model 12, like compression, some EQ, and I think it sounds a little bit better. But I'm still adjusting to the difference between that and this. You waving like I was sand. Maybe what I need is an adjustment period because in fact this is a significant change. I still have a few days between the shooting of this video and when I'm going to serve it up to you with the new version of this song at the very end. So I'll continue to tinker with this and turn it into something that I am happy with. If you're interested in that, please stick around till the end of the video. But first, let me thank you for making it this far and for coming along with me on this weird odyssey of a video. I'm curious if any of you have experimented with different styles of singing over your lives as musicians, and especially if any of you have made sort of a slow transition from one style to another that is now like your predominant way of singing. Tell me all about that in the comments, and I suppose if you have a preference as between the old version and the new version of Sand, after you hear it, let me know that too. As always, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. I hope you're doing well, and I will see you around.
Still smell the sunscreen on your skin. Still hear you daring to get in. Still see you laugh behind the towel when I'm blue. You buried my legs in the sand, humming to catch you if I can. But if I did, what then? Sundown summons the tide again. Time washed away whatever we meant. I remember you waving like I was sand, crushed next to your ocean, waving like I was sand. If we touched, I would be floating, waving, but you still see me as land. There's a part of you still there, just like the salt sticks in your hair, till every shadow in the shallows looks like you, holding my breath until there's no